Hey everyone, Poindexter here. And this video begins a playthrough of what I hope to be a successful campaign in the solitaire wargame Corsair Leader by Dan Verson Games. It's been a while since I've showcased one of the Leader series of air combat games, my first being the one that started my channel, B-17 Flying Fortress Leader, a great game and one of my favorites in the series. Corsair Leader is also being reprinted with a second edition, which, as of the time of the series, has not yet been released. It is welcome news, as the first edition did suffer from lots of errata, missing and misprinted cards, and a rulebook that didn't quite cover all the minutiae of the game. We'll be playing with the updated second edition rulebook, however, which clarifies gameplay elements that were vague in the first edition. So, let's get started, and see how we'll perform in the skies over the Pacific. Corsair Leader is a solitaire air combat card and dice game that tasks you with taking your squadron of aircraft, fighters, and bombers, and completing several mission objectives to score enough victory points to successfully win the game. Your pilot's experience is shown by 6 different ranks, from newbie to legendary. The challenge is to maintain a cohesive squadron to complete your missions effectively. There are several campaigns that come with the game that cover many key battles during the Pacific War. But your Japanese opponents will not make your job easy, as their ground sites and aircraft can wreak havoc on the stress levels of your pilots, making them unfit to fly. The first thing you'll do is choose a campaign. All the campaign displays have a difficulty rating. If you've never played Corsair Leader, I'd recommend starting with the Luzon Introductory Campaign. This battle in the Philippines took place late in the war, when American and Allied forces dominated the Pacific, and the Japanese were at their weakest. So it's a good one to play if you're learning the mechanics and the sequence of play. For our playthrough, however, we're going to start much earlier. We'll be playing the Guadalcanal Campaign that began in August 1942. 2 months after America's great victory over the Japanese at the Battle of Midway. The campaign has a level of skilled, and will be playing as the U.S. Marines. As the description says on the display, the Battle of Guadalcanal was one of the first offensive campaigns launched by the U.S. in the Pacific. Its goal was to capture and then use a Japanese airfield under construction. Once captured, this airfield was renamed Henderson Field, and the Cactus Air Force was born. The next decision we make is the length of our campaign: short, medium, or long. For this playthrough, we're going to choose a long campaign, which will last 10 days, or 10 missions. We start the long campaign with 29 Special Operation Points, or SO points. Think of SO points as the currency in the game. They are spent on things such as promoting your pilots, purchasing special weapons if available, or for use in certain event cards, to name a few. It's best not to spend all your SO points at the start, because you may need to use them for a critical event or to avoid a negative outcome. The Guadalcanal campaign also has some additional factors to consider, namely poor conditions. The description states that at the end of each mission, we must either pay 1 SO point or roll a die for each pilot that took part to determine if they earned extra stress. On the bright side, the Into the Fray designation states that our pilots gain 1 extra experience point each mission, which will be very helpful, as they will be promoted much faster, becoming more effective as the campaign progresses. Next, we place the recon and intel markers in their starting locations. We'll go into more detail of what these 2 indicators mean when we begin the mission setup, but in brief, the number on the recon line informs us how many target cards we can draw, while the intel line lets us know if we add or remove additional enemy forces on the game board. The campaign display also informs us which aircraft we're allowed to use. For the Guadalcanal campaign, we used the F4F Wildcat Fighter, the SBD Dauntless Dive Bomber, and the TBF Avenger Torpedo Bomber. Below this list tells us the starting level of any replacement pilots we acquire during the campaign, newbies in this case, the lowest level of pilot. On the right side of the display is the list of special weapons allowed in the campaign. Special weapons can only be purchased with SO points as indicated earlier, but as you can see, no special weapons can be purchased in this campaign. But that doesn't mean we're completely without offensive capability, as we can use standard bombs and torpedoes, which cost no SO points and will still be quite effective for the missions to come. We'll go ahead and sort through the aircraft cards and separate all the F4F fighter cards, the SBD cards, and the TBF Avenger cards, and set them to the side, along with their counter equivalent. We'll also go ahead and collect our bandit and sight counters and begin separating them. All bandit counters have the year marked on the right. The Guadalcanal campaign takes place in 1942, so we place all bandit counters with the year 42 on them in a container. These counters will be drawn at random when the time comes to populate the board with sights and bandits. The gray-colored counters are naval counters, used when attacking Japanese warships. These naval counters will be placed in their own separate container. There are several Japanese bomber counters as well. These are objective counters and are not placed in the Japanese bandit and sight mix, so we'll place them off to the side. There are many pilot indicator and skill counters that will be utilized, so we'll place them in their own area to be drawn as needed. Now that we've got our counters and aircraft cards sorted, let's begin selecting our pilots. We refer to the player help sheet to see how many pilots are allowed and their starting skill level. For a long campaign, we refer to this column. We start with 1 newbie, 2 green, 6 average, 2 skilled, and 1 legendary, a total of 12 pilots. Note that these pilots do not cost SO points to purchase. The standard rules allow you to choose your pilots as you see fit, but in this playthrough, we're going to implement an optional rule, random squadron selection. Using this optional rule gives us 18 more SO points to play with, since we're doing a long campaign. So, we'll take all 20 of our pilot counters and place them in a container for random drawing. Our first draw will be for the newbie pilot. It's Pilot Foot, flying an F4F fighter. He has no bonus in air-to-air combat and is not very good at ground attack. His stress levels are weak, so he'll become shaken rather quickly. Next, we choose 2 green pilots. And we draw Kruger, an Avenger pilot, and Wiggins, a fighter pilot. Kruger has good air-to-ground stats, and Wiggins has no bonuses to air or ground attacks. Both pilots' stress levels are better than Foot's, but not by much. Now we draw for the 6 average pilots. And we draw 3 fighters, an SBD dive bomber, and 2 more Avengers. Of all the bombers, Gardner has the best stats, with a +2 air-to-ground bonus and a good stress rating. For the fighters, Greycap has the better air-to-air modifier, and Ocampo has the best stress rating. We draw 2 counters for the skilled pilots next. And both pilots are F4F fighters, Casabelli and Conchal. Conchal has the better air-to-air modifier, while Casabelli has the better stress rating. And finally, we draw our last pilot with the veteran skill. It's Pilot Campbell, yet another fighter pilot. He has bonuses in air-to-air and air-to-ground, and his stress level is decent. This completes our pilot selection. we end up with 8 fighters and 4 bombers. A little thin on the bomber side, in my opinion, but we are well represented in fighters for air combat, and, in a pinch, we can use them for bombing as well. Before we continue, I'll mention one more optional rule we're going to use: damaging targets. In the base game, you must destroy your target to gain victory points. This optional rule allows damaged targets to score victory points as well, but at a reduced amount. The main reason why I'm mentioning it now is that we must pay 9 SO points, since we're doing a long campaign, to implement the rule. This brings our SO point total down to 38. We're going to use some of our SO points to promote a couple of our pilots. Each pilot can be promoted more than once, but be mindful of your SO point totals. The player help sheet lists the cost in SO points for promoting between ranks. We're going to promote newbie pilot Foot to green to boost his stats a little. To do this, we must pay 6 SO points in the long campaign. We're also going to promote Wiggins from green to average. This will cost us 9 more SO points, leaving us with 23. Before we begin the next phase, which is purchasing skills, we're going to take a moment to place some indicator markers on our pilot cards. We'll start with Casabelli, as he has all the perks we'll be talking about. On the left side, we have the letter C with a number 1. The C stands for cool. A pilot's cool rating indicates how quickly he recovers from stress. At the end of each mission, the total amount of stress accumulated by the pilot is reduced by the number of cool points indicated. Moving to the right is SA, which stands for situational awareness. This skill allows a pilot to attack in both the fast and slow phases of combat. Without it, Casabelli would only be able to attack in the slow phase, which means enemy bandits shoot first in combat. To the right of SA is GH, which stands for Gung Ho, a powerful perk that can be used to great effect. Using Gung Ho allows a pilot 3 possible choices: treat an unfit or shaken pilot as okay for the current mission, suffer no effect after receiving a shaken, damaged, or destroyed result, and treat any attack as rolling a 10 on the die and then applying modifiers. Finally, the W on the far right stands for weight points. This indicates the maximum number in weight of any external stores, such as bombs or drop tanks. For example, the 250-pound bomb has a weight of 0.5, which means this Wildcat can carry 2 of them. The 500-pound bomb costs 1 weight point, which means the Wildcat can carry only 1. The 1,000-pound bomb cannot be carried, as its weight is 2, higher than the Wildcat's weight point rating. We'll place the remaining perks on the rest of the aircraft that have them. Now we're going to spend a few more SO points to purchase some skills for our pilots. You can purchase a maximum of 2 skills per pilot. It's worth it to take a moment to look over the pilot skills card and familiarize yourself with the list, as some skills are more effective than others in certain situations. Some skills are expendable. In the long campaign, each skill costs 3 SO points. We're going to spend 12 SO points to purchase 4 skills. We'll save the remaining 11 points for future use, so this will be our final purchase. Pilot Foot needs a little boost in his air-to-air skills, so we'll purchase the skill Fighter Pilot. This adds +1 to all gun attacks. TBF Pilot Gremond needs a boost to his ground attack rolls, so we'll purchase Quick Hands. This skill adds +1 to his air-to-ground die rolls in the target area. Fighter Pilot Wiggins is decent in air and ground attacks, but his stress levels are not the best, so we'll purchase Agile for his skill. This keeps him from accumulating stress if he goes evasive in combat. Finally, is pilot secret. Since he has one of the highest modifiers in air-to-air combat, we'll purchase the skill NFOD, which gives him the ability to return to a neutral position in combat at the cost of 1 stress if he becomes disadvantaged or tailed by a bandit. This gives him a better chance of getting into position to put his guns on target. Before we begin our first mission, there's one more task to perform. On the main map of the campaign display are numbers indicating all the targets in the campaign. Only these targets will be used, so we'll take a moment to go through the target deck and pull out the ones with the numbers indicated on the display. There are 18 in total. After doing so, we set aside the remaining cards and shuffle our new target deck. We also shuffle all the event cards and place them on the board. We fill out the pilot log sheet with all relevant information, and we're ready to begin the sequence of play and our first mission. The first step in the sequence of play begins with drawing target cards. How many to draw is indicated in the current recon location. Therefore, we draw 3 target cards, but we must draw them one at a time instead of all at once. Our first draw is target number 5, close air support. Looking at the target description, this is a secondary target, it is a soft target, and it has the notation friendly fire. Looking at the key terms chart goes into more detail of what these descriptions mean. Secondary target is not a primary mission, but an optional second mission that can also be flown. When deciding to fly a secondary mission, you must choose all pilots for the primary and secondary at the same time. In other words, your pilots can only fly 1 mission per day. The same pilots can't be called upon to fly a primary and secondary mission. However, you could choose a secondary mission to be your primary mission if you wish. The second notation for this target is soft, which indicates that some munitions get a bonus when attacking soft targets. The only weapon in our campaign that has that bonus is the 250-pound bomb, which is indicated by the S in the black box, with the modifier +1 next to it. Friendly fire is a unique situation in which our pilot suffers 1 stress point if he fails to inflict any hits or successfully suppress a target after expending one of his air-to-ground counters. The second target is Target 21, small AAA. The description states that we are to destroy 3 20mm gun sights. We draw the third target card, which is Assault Troops. This target has the Scramble indicator, which means that we must fly this mission. In essence, this automatically becomes our primary mission. It also has the Soft indicator. The target card contains other information. The reticle in the center states how many hits are needed to destroy the target. In this case, 6 hits will finish it off. The box to the left tells us how many aircraft we're allowed to take. The left panel here informs us how many sights and bandits are to be placed on the board. The right panel informs us of the number of victory points we'll receive if we destroy the target. It also tells us how many spaces the recon and intel markers are adjusted if the target is destroyed. In this case, there is no movement. The gung-ho indicator means that if this target is destroyed, all expended gung-ho are replenished throughout the squadron, regardless of if they participated in the mission. We'll refrain from flying a secondary mission, as this scramble will use a lot of our assets. Our target has been selected, and the next step is to place enemy sights. The target card tells us how many sights to place in each approach area and the target area. For this target, we place 2 sights in each approach and 2 in the center. We randomly draw enemy sight counters from the cup and place 2 in each of the 4 approach areas. And we place 2 more in the target area. After placing sights, There is one marker with the no sights indicator, so we remove this counter and place it back into the container. Regardless, the target area is ringed with plenty of enemy sights, though we're fortunate that most of them are only effective at low altitude and can only fire in the space they are located in. But that is not the case in the south approach. A 75mm flat gun is present and can fire at both low and high altitudes. Also, the black 1 indicates it can fire at us from one space away, so we'll try to give this troublesome sight a wide berth. Now it's time to assign our pilots to the mission. We're allowed 6 aircraft for the mission, so we're going to take 4 F-4F fighters as escorts and 2 bombers. Our 4 fighter pilots will be Casabelli and Conchal, both skilled pilots, and Showbiz and Pepe, who are average. As you can see, there is a lot of gung-ho spread around our fighter escort, and we'll put it to good use, as we'll get all our used gung-ho back if we can destroy the target. For our 2 bombers, we'll take Lewis in the SBD and Grimmond in the Avenger, both with gung-ho. The last thing to do in the pre-flight phase is arm our aircraft. Both our bombers will carry 1,000-pound bombs, which meets the maximum weight points of both aircraft, which is 2. We now determine who the flight leader is for the mission. The pilot with the highest skill is generally designated flight leader, but we have 2 pilots in the flight that are at the same level, skilled in this case. Therefore, we can choose or randomly determine which one will lead the flight. For this mission, we'll choose Casabelli as flight leader, since he has more skills than Conchal. The pre-flight phase is completed, and the target-bound flight phase begins. The first step is to draw a target-bound event card. We draw the top card and refer to the top section. And it's not a good one. We must apply 1 stress to 3 pilots of our choice. We'll apply 1 stress point to the pilots with the highest stress resistance. The next step is to place our aircraft. We don't know yet how many bandits we're going to face, but the target card tells us it could be significant. So we're going to send the whole group in together for maximum protection. We'll place our aircraft in the northern pre-approach area to avoid the 75mm sight in the southern area for as long as possible. Taking the north approach will only expose us to its fire over the target. The bomb markers have the low indicator, meaning they can only be dropped at low altitude. This means Grimmond in the TBF will have to fly at low altitude to release his bomb. Lewis in his SBD, on the other hand, will be able to dive on the target and release his bomb at low altitude, so we'll keep him at high altitude to take advantage of the dive bonus indicated on his card. We'll also drop Ocampo down to low level to give the Japanese riflemen in the northern approach something else to shoot at. Note that these altitudes cannot be changed once they are set. The only exception is the SBD dive bomber, which can dive from high to low altitude. The next step is to place bandits on the board. The target card states we place 1 bandit in each approach area and 2 in the target area. We draw 1 bandit counter for each approach area and 2 for the target area. All the approach areas have bandits, but we get lucky in the target area, drawing 2 no bandit counters. But we're not done yet, as we must perform any intel adjustments. The intel track shows that we must draw 2 more bandits. These bandits will be placed in the target area. Fortunately, we draw a 3rd no bandit counter, and with all bandits drawn, we can return all the no bandit counters to the mix. 3 of the bandits are veterans, and 2 are average. Next, we draw another event card and apply the effects of the middle section. And this event is much better. If one of our pilots is shot down this mission, we immediately return him to the squadron with +2 stress. Our final step in the target bound phase is to place the turn marker on the turn 1 space. As you can see, we have 5 turns to destroy the target. And now it's time to begin combat in the over the target phase. Not much will be happening on our first turn, so we'll speed through the steps that cannot be performed. The first step is dive bombers dive to low altitude. Our SBD won't be doing this until he's over the target, so we skip this step. The next step is fast pilots attack. Our flight is still in the pre-approach area and no bandits or sights are present, so we skip this step as well. The third step is sights and bandits attack, but we skip this step too as there are no sights or bandits in our area. Slow pilots attack in the next step, which is also disregarded since no escorts or bandits are present in the same area. But the next step is one we can perform: aircraft move. However, we're going to remain in the pre-approach area for the moment and draw this Key 43 bandit into our group. He will move in the next step, which is bandits move. The Key 43 moves into the pre-approach area, and we'll have Conchal, one of our skilled pilots, engage him before he can get to the bombers. The remaining bandits also move one area closer, and now there are 3 bandits waiting for us in the northern approach area. The Key 43 in the south approach moves one area closer and is now in the target area. The final step to perform is advancing the turn counter, and we now begin turn number 2. Our first step in the next turn is dive bombers dive to low altitude, but we skip this step as our SBD is not attacking. The next step is fast pilots attack. None of our pilots are fast. However, Flight Leader Casabelli has a situational awareness perk, which means he can fire in both fast and slow phases. As a bonus, since he is a flight leader, we can use his SA perk on another pilot if we choose to. We'll hold off on using SA for Conchal, as we'll need it for the more dangerous enemy bandits to come. Sights and bandit attacks are next, and the Key 43 begins a dogfight with Conchal. This Key 43 is flown by an average pilot. He has a +1 air-to-air modifier, and he will cause damage on a roll of 8 or higher. The first thing we do is refer to the dogfight board. Bandit maneuvers are determined by a D10 die roll. First, we locate the column that shows the current position the bandit is in. Right now, he is in the neutral position, since the dogfight has just begun. So we use this column here. We roll a D10 and use the numbers on this column to see what maneuver the bandit will attempt. But we add +1 to the final total because of the Key 43's air-to-air modifier. We roll a 1, but add 1 to the total, which makes 2. This means the bandit will try a tight turn. But next we must check to see if the maneuver was successful. We determine this by looking at the bottom of the dogfight board. We roll a D10, adding the bandit's air-to-air modifier and subtracting the escort's air-to-air modifier. Conchal has a +2 modifier, so with all the modifiers added up, we end up with a -1 modifier to the final die roll. We roll the die and compare the number to the tight turn roll here. We roll a 3, which turns into a 2 after the final modifier. This means that the maneuver failed, as the number falls into the no effect range. The bandit remains in the neutral position and will now attack. We add the bandit's +1 modifier and subtract Conchal's +2 modifier for a final -1. The bandit fires and rolls an 8, which would have damaged Conchal's fighter, but the -1 modifier brings it down to 7, which adds 1 stress instead. All bandits that can attack have done so, and we proceed to the next step, which is slow pilot's attack. Conchal gets his chance to counterattack. Unlike the bandit, we get to choose which maneuver to perform. We'll attempt the In My Sights maneuver. We add Conchal's air-to-air modifier, a +2, and subtract the bandit's modifier, which is +1. The final modifier is +1, which we will add to the roll. And it's a 10. The +1 makes it 11, which gives us a +2 modifier to our attack roll. Now, Conchal will attack the bandit with a cumulative +3 modifier to his attack roll. Now, Conchal will attack the bandit. With a cumulative +3 modifier to his attack roll, Conchal has a pretty good chance of destroying the bandit, but we're not going to take any chances. He will use one of his 2 gung-hos in lieu of a die roll. One of the perks of using a gung-ho is rolling a guaranteed 10 on any attack roll. With Conchal's gun rating of 8, a 10 easily destroys the bandit. And Conchal scores the first kill of the campaign. The next step is aircraft move, and we will move all our aircraft into the north approach area. These bandits are dangerous, with 2 of them being veteran pilots. We'll engage Flight Leader Casabelli against the A6M2 veteran, Conchal against the Key 43 veteran, and Ocampo against the Key 61. Next is the bandits' turn to move. The 3 bandits in the north approach do not move, as they are engaged with other aircraft. The veteran Key 61 bandit in the center area, however, does move 1 space and joins his friends in the north approach area, engaging Starman. The last step is advancing the turn counter, and turn 3 begins. We ignore the first step as our dive bomber is not yet attacking, and proceed to the fast pilot's attack step. Again, all our fighter pilots are slow, but Flight Leader Casabelli has situational awareness, allowing him to attack in the fast and slow phases. We'll use his SA now, and he will maneuver against the veteran Zero pilot. Casabelli attempts a tight turn. The reason for this maneuver is that we don't want to risk losing a position and becoming disadvantaged against this veteran pilot. We add Casabelli's 0 air-to-air modifier and subtract the bandit's +2 modifier, which leaves us with a -2 modifier on the die roll. We roll an 8, modified to 6, and Casabelli manages to gain the advantage over the bandit. Being advantaged adds a +1 to Casabelli's attack. But, once again, we're not going to risk a bad die roll, keeping us from destroying this bandit. So Casabelli will use his gung-ho for the attack, which rolls an automatic 10. And the veteran Zero pilot is shot down. Casabelli scores his first kill of the campaign. Just as significant, the veteran bandit is not returned to the counter mix and is placed on the dogfight board. All veteran and legendary bandits shot down in this campaign do not return, so it's always a good idea to knock them down if you can. Sights and bandits attack in the next step. We will perform the sights attacks first. There are 2 rifleman sights in the north approach. The green L indicates low, meaning they can only fire at low-flying targets. Bear Gremmond in the TBF and Ocampo in the F4F fighter are both flying at low altitude, so they will be the targets of this attack. We could attempt to suppress or evade the attack, but the riflemen can cause no real harm other than increasing stress if their die rolls are high enough. We'll just plow ahead and hope the riflemen are bad shots. One sight will target the TBF and the other the Wildcat. Both riflemen will cause 1 stress on a roll of 6 or higher. The first sight fires at Gremmond. and misses on a 5. The second rifleman fires at Ocampo, and he also misses on a 3. But now, the real threats take their turn. We'll begin with Conshaw and the veteran Key 43 pilot. The bandit adds +2 to his maneuver roll. He is in a neutral position and will attempt an out-of-the-sun attack. We roll again to see if the maneuver was successful, adding the bandit's +2 air-to-air modifier and subtracting Conshaw's modifier, which is also 2. The final modifier is 0, so it'll be a straight die roll. He rolls a 3, which causes the bandit to lose the position, and Conshaw has gained the advantage. The bandit cannot attack in this position, so we move to the next pilot, which will be Ocampo. The Key 61 aircraft, flown by an average pilot, attempts a maneuver. His modifier is 0, so it will be a straight die roll. From his neutral position, he will attempt a yo-yo. We now roll to see if the maneuver was successful, adding the bandit's air-to-air modifier and Ocampo's, both of which are 0. The maneuver fails, and the bandit loses 1 position. The bandit cannot attack since he is now disadvantaged. It's Starman's turn now, and the veteran Oscar pilot attempts a maneuver, adding a +2 modifier to his die roll. From the neutral position, the bandit rolls a 1, modified to 3, which is a tight turn. We now determine if the maneuver was successful, adding the bandit's +2 modifier and subtracting Starman's +1 modifier, which results in a final +1. He rolls an 8, modified to 9, which gains him a position and a +1 to his attack roll. The bandit has the advantage and will attack. Using the bandit's +2 modifier and subtracting Starman's +1 adds a final +1 to his attack. But we add another +1 since the bandit has the advantage, which means we'll add +2 to the final die roll. Starman is in a bit of trouble. Fortunately, Flight Leader Casabelli is currently unengaged, so he'll perform a suppression attempt on the bandit in the hopes of disrupting his attack. Suppression is like an actual attack, except the bandit is not destroyed if hit, but it does cancel the bandit's attack. Determining if a suppression attempt is successful is the same as an actual attack. We add Casabelli's air-to-air modifier and subtract the bandit's for a final result. The bandit has +2 and Casabelli has 0, so we apply a -2 modifier to the suppression attempt. Casabelli's gun rating is 8, which is the result we need for a successful attempt, so we'll need to roll a 10 to succeed, a long shot for sure. And it fails on a roll of 2. Casabelli gains another stress after the suppression attempt. But we have one more trick up our sleeve. Starman will attempt evasion. When performing an evasion, we roll 2 dice and pick the lower of the 2 outcomes. However, Starman will gain 1 stress after the attempt. Starman goes evasive, and we roll 2 dice. And it's a 2 and 10. 2 is the lowest, so we add +2 to this result for a final total of 4. And the veteran bandit misses since the result is less than the 6 on the counter. Starman gains a stress point, but is otherwise unhurt. All sights and bandits have attacked, and now it's our turn in this slow pilot's attack phase. We'll start with Conshaw. He will attempt an in my sights maneuver, adding his +2 air-to-air and subtracting the bandit's +2 air-to-air leaves us with a 0 modifier. And it's a 4, which adds a +1 to his attack roll on top of the +1 for being advantaged over the bandit. However, we'll once again forego a die roll and use Conshaw's remaining gung-ho to roll an automatic 10, which destroys the veteran bandit. Conchal earns his second kill of the mission. And another veteran Japanese pilot is removed from the game. Pilot Ocampo is next. He has no gung-ho to use, so it's going to be his skill as a pilot that determines this outcome. He will attempt a tight turn as his maneuver. If we roll high enough, we can gain a position and be on the bandit's tail, giving us a +3 modifier on the attack roll. If it's lower, we don't lose anything and still retain the advantage. Both Ocampo and the bandit have 0 modifiers, so it'll be an unmodified die roll. And Ocampo manages to pull it off on a roll of 8, gaining him another position. He is now tailing the bandit. Ocampo will have to roll a modified 8 to destroy the bandit. With the +3 modifier in effect, thanks to us tailing the bandit, we'll need to roll a 5 or better. Ocampo fires and does roll a 5. The Key 61 is destroyed, and the counter is returned to the mix. Ocampo scores his first kill of the campaign. Finally, it's Starman. We need to get him to at least a neutral position to fire, so we'll attempt a yo-yo. We'll need to roll high on this one, as the veteran bandit applies a -2 modifier to our die roll, since Starman's air-to-air is 0. We'll need an 8 or better to succeed on this maneuver. And we fail on a roll of 7, modified to 5, which applies a -1 attack modifier, but it's irrelevant since Starman cannot attack. All slow pilots that can attack have done so, and we move on to the next step. Aircraft move. Our bombers move to the center area and prepare for their attacks. We'll also move Ocampo and Flight Leader Casabelli to give the ground sight something to shoot at other than our bombers. For support, Conchal will remain with Starman, who is still engaged with the Key 43. All aircraft have moved, and now it's time for the bandits' move phase. But the lone remaining bandit is engaged with Starman and does not move. Therefore, we perform the last phase, which is advancing the turn counter, and we begin turn number 4. Turn 4 begins, and we can finally let our dive bomber do his job. Lewis pitches down and begins his dive on the assault troops. He is a slow pilot, so his attack will be performed during the slow pilot's attack step later. The next step is fast pilot's attack, but we skip this step as we have no fast pilots and proceed to sights and bandits attack. There's a heavy machine gun in the center area that can target low-flying aircraft. Ocampo and Lewis are both at low altitude. We'll have the sight target Ocampo, as we don't want anything awful to happen to our dive bomber. We'll refrain from using any suppression or evasion and just let the die roll decide the outcome. The machine gun fires and barely misses on a 6. Now we must deal with the deadly 75mm in the south approach. It has a range of 1 and can target both high and low flying aircraft. Again, we'll let Ocampo take the brunt of this attack, but this time he will go evasive. We roll 2 dice and pick the lower of the 2 numbers. We roll a 3 and a 1. The 1 wins the roll, and Ocampo escapes unscathed but gains another stress due to the evasion. All enemy sights that can attack have done so, and now Starman deals with the bandit that is still clinging to him. We roll for the bandit's maneuver, adding a +2 to the total for the veteran bandit's modifier. We roll a 4, but it's modified to 6, and he will attempt a yo-yo. We now check if the maneuver was successful. Factoring in the bandit's air-to-air modifier and Starman's, we add a +1 to the die roll. It's a 6, modified to 7, and the bandit gains a position and a +1 modifier to his attack. Starman is in a desperate situation. Conchal will attempt to suppress the bandit before he can fire. The bandit has a +2 air-to-air modifier, and Conchal also has a +2, so the two numbers cancel each other, and no modifiers apply. Conchal must roll an 8 or better to succeed. And he does roll an 8, and the bandit's attack is thwarted. However, Conchal gains another stress point after the suppression. All bandits and sights have attacked, and we move through the slow pilot's attack phase. The moment of truth has arrived as our bombers get to do their stuff. Gremond attacks first and will use his gung-ho for his attack roll, which results in an automatic 10. This result causes 3 hits on the target. Lewis attacks next, and he will use his gung-ho to roll an automatic 10, which causes 3 more hits. With 6 hits, the target is destroyed, and we receive 5 victory points. But Starman is still engaged, and he'll try one more time to outmaneuver this bandit. He'll attempt a half loop, which could improve his position by 2 if we're lucky, and by 4 if we're extremely lucky. Combining the bandits and Starman's modifiers, we add +1 to the attempt. And the dice gods smile on us with a roll of 10. This improves Starman's position by 4 and adds +1 to his attack roll. This outcome is more than we needed, for Starman has a gung-ho, and he will use it to attack this tenacious bandit, rolling an automatic 10, which destroys a 3rd veteran pilot. Another Japanese veteran is removed from the campaign, and Starman earns a hard-fought victory. All slow pilots that can attack have done so, and we perform aircraft movement. It's time to bug out, and we remove all our aircraft from the board. By doing so, we proceed directly to the homebound flight, and we draw a homebound event card. We draw the card and resolve the event shown in the bottom section. And it's another good draw, as we remove 1 stress from all pilots who flew the mission. We don't need to roll for SAR results since none of our pilots were shot down, so we head to debriefing and begin tallying our results. First, we must decide whether to pay 1 SO point or roll a die for each pilot to see if they acquire more stress. We'll pay the SO point to keep from rolling for pilot stress, which leaves us with 10 points. Next, we add target stress to the pilots that flew the mission. Target 3 was in a stress 1 area, so we add 1 stress to all the pilots who participated. However, all the pilots that flew the mission have a cool rating, so we reduce their stress equal to their displayed amount, which is 1. Therefore, all the target stress we accumulated has been removed. The target of our mission has the gung-ho indicator. Because it was destroyed, all pilots who used gung-ho recover it. Each pilot that flew the mission receives 1 experience point, and since the target was destroyed and we suffered no losses, we add another point. Also, the Into the Fray qualifier for this campaign indicates we earn a 3rd experience point. None of our pilots gained enough experience for promotions, but they made significant gains regardless. Unfortunately, the target's destruction did not move the recon or intel markers, and they remain where they are. And with that, we've reached the end of our first mission, and it's not a stretch to say that it was a major success. Every Japanese bandit was destroyed, including 3 veteran pilots, which will make future dogfights a bit more manageable. The Japanese assault troops were destroyed, and our fellow Marines on the ground are probably singing our praises for the support. Gung-ho was used liberally during the mission, and on the surface it may seem like the mission was played on easy mode. The reason why it was used so much is simply because we could. Destroying the target would replenish all gung-ho used, so we were free to go all in and use it to our advantage. Not all targets have this identifier, however, so we won't necessarily be gung-hoing our way through every mission. In fact, it would be ill-advised to do so. The die rolls generally went in our favor as well, so that was also a factor in the victory. But, as all wargamers know, the dice are fickle, and they can turn against you at any time. For now, though, we'll take the win and see if we can build on the strong start of our campaign. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next mission. Semper Fi.